This is things you might not have heard, and I am Jay Cleveland Payne within the queue. 10 stories from the past weekend you deemed as conversational. You vetted them as conversational topics, things to talk about, covering information, politics, current events, and pop culture news. And we're talking the TikTok ban because it looks like it's happening. Donald Trump and Jack Smith, who have their both days in court, if you will, and of course 7 other stories all wrapped up into this cast. Now we'll explain the vetting process at the end of the headlines, so stick around for the whole thing so you figure out how we got the stories here and how you made us better for that. But right now, I'll remind you that our website home, thisisaconversationproject.com, is there 24/7 to give you what you need to know about us, how to get in touch with us, and how to do stuff. And if you can't figure out how to get in touch with us, I'll tell you right now. You can simply send me an email to the conversation inbox at gmail.com. That will give you a chance to comment, concern, complain, whatever you want to do about what we do here at the Conversation Project. So keep that in the back of your mind for later times. Let's get through the headlines first for today. And today just so happens to be Monday, the 13th of January, 2025. No particular orders as these stories are. It doesn't go for the relevance and the engagement. We'll explain why engagement makes a difference. But these are stories in the order that the narrative just seemed to work out the best. Starting off the bat with a plea, if you will, from TikTok creators who are urging their fans to follow them on other platforms such as Instagram or YouTube with a potential ban. The ban set to go into effect on the 19th of January, that is 6 days from now, which will basically get rid of TikTok for America, or TikTok America. Now, this ban will happen if TikTok is not divested from the portfolio of ByteDance, the Chinese company that owns it. What will happen officially? Well, the TikTok app won't disappear on your phone. It just will stop getting updates pretty much immediately. And if you don't have it on a phone or don't have it on an app, on some platform or whatever, you just can't get it there. Now, how it will work exactly on websites and things like that, I'll actually access it more through the web browser. We shall see. Essentially, it shall be blocked going forward. And your phone, since it's on your phone, will be there forever, or tablet, whatever you use. Now, the move is concerning the federal government who wants to get control of the Chinese government getting a hold of our data and documentation, because the Chinese government owns TikTok. In theory, they could call, in all the loans, if you will, call in all the data from U.S. users, essentially lots of U.S. users. And since many people use this app for being positive, being creative, and making money, people in the States are freaking out. Creators are asking you to follow them on other platforms, which means they're building them out of, panic. So if they are on other platforms, they're asking to follow them as well. I'll do the same thing right now. So TikTok isn't our main source of news and output, but does have a lot of input to what we do here. So if you follow this on TikTok, you're seeing this clip on TikTok, we ask you to follow us on YouTube and follow us on Facebook or follow us on X. X.com/This Is a Conversation Project. Facebook.com/ I'll say it backwards. X.com/TH_conversation. Facebook.com/This Is Conversation Project. Search for the Conversation Project or This Is Conversation Project on YouTube, and you'll find us there as well. That's where we do the full videos and stuff like this. You're seeing this, you're watching a clip of going forward. But right now, TikTok looking like it's going forward because the Supreme Court looks like they're going to let the ban pass. It will pass. It will happen on the 19th, and the 19th is the day before the 20th, which is when Donald Trump will be elected. Or will be installed, if you will, and no one really knows what we can do after that. In fact, we're pretty sure he can do nothing after that. He wanted this pushback so he can negotiate with ByteDance and TikTok. It's probably not going to happen. There's another ByteDance own platform called Lemonade, which should not be banned because it does not have the same sort of things going on, but they're not the same, and that's another thing as well. But look out for the TikTok ban coming soon, lest some serious interaction happens within the next 6 days. We're going back to New Orleans, where truck attack victims are filing a lawsuit claiming the city failed to ensure their safety by having the proper measures up. In the aftermath of the tragic New Year's Day truck attack on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, 14 fatalities listed at the moment, people still fighting for lives and injuries as well. Victims have initiated legal action against the city and associated contractors. Lawsuit alleges that the failure to implement the effective safety measures, particularly the malfunctioning bollard system that will tend to restrict vehicle access to various places on Bourbon Street and in New Orleans in the city, contribute to the severity of the attack. The plaintiffs are comprised of 6 injured individuals and the father of a deceased victim, and they assert that the city's negligence in the maintaining and deploying of adequate protective barriers allowed the assailant, Sabsine Din Jabbar, to proceed and breach the pedestrian area. They contend that despite the prior warnings and reports highlighting the vulnerabilities of the Bullard system, necessary improvements were not made by culminating in the preventable tragedy that happened today. Of course, the Bullard system are the barriers that were malfunctioning that they were going to fix. But in the meantime, they had just plain old metal barriers and some vehicles, like police vehicles, that were just blocking streets. As you see from the video of what happened, the assailant was able to take his car, drive it around a police vehicle onto a sidewalk, and do what happened. This is a very sad event, but as things happen, at some point in time, lawyers get involved. We'll see what happens if there's any resolution. The ones who actually start working to fix these things, or we'll just have to kind of just stick with mourning the losses we have so far. Trump was sentenced in his felony hush money case, but actually nothing happened. So on Friday, we talked about how everyone that was trying to push to get this thing pushed back or get this thing moved away failed Trump. The Supreme Court voted 5-4 to not push back, not get rid of this thing because it's a state court thing. So they didn't want to intervene in this one. So Friday morning, Donald Trump and his lawyer showed up on TV, I should say. They were on Zoom, on some sort of streaming platform. It actually looks more like Teams, but there you go. They logged on. Donald Trump got a chance to speak before his accuser, or whatever, the court, saying it was unfair, witch hunt, blah, blah, blah. And then he got a sentence. A very, very detailed, very slow, very intentional reading by Judge Juan Machon on the 34 felony counts on falsifying business records, dealing with the Stormy Daniels case, trying to pay off Stormy Daniels before being elected. And it came down to this. Because Donald Trump is going to be the president, and it's kind of important to do that presidential work, Juan Machon think the best thing to do was to be done with it, be over with it. No charges. Well, plenty of charges. No actual repercussions. No jail time. No fines. No probation. No community service. He's allowed to move on without his presidency without any legal implications. Nothing holding him back. Nothing to come back to. Nothing saying, well, in 4 years, you've got to do so many hours of community service. You've got to spend this time going over. It's done. Now, why Donald Trump wanted to push to not have this happen is not so surprising because it's a loss. He still has 34 felony counts. They're still going to appeal. So they're going to try to get those things to go away. They're not going away. But it's on the record that he is a felon, the first felon to hold the office of president. That is historic, so you have that. But it also is a loss, something on the books that Trump can't get rid of so easily because he's kind of busy being president. Now, as I said, this will be appealed. This will see what will happen going forward. We'll see what it'll do to make this better for him. While on our case, it is a resolution. It is an answer. It's not the answer anybody wants to hear, but it is an answer to the whole thing. Let's move on to story at number 4. And this is our day today to go back to reflect on the wildfires in California. We really can't do any updates to it because nothing to update. More celebrities have lost houses. More celebrities have given donations to things. There's plenty of ways to give to these actual victims, whether they are rich, famous, or just regular people. But here's the thing. Officials are warning of the scammers exploiting Los Angeles wildfire victims, trying to defraud them in the time when they're in need. And this is something I know personally, dealing with 2 years back, a tornado going to the neighborhood, people not being so great, being shady. There's 2 issues going on in Los Angeles. One of them gets a bit complicated, where they are locking down neighborhoods and locking down places because of looters. People coming through in the areas where everything is basically cleared out and people seeing what they can grab it and driving on. We dealt with that extensively here in Little Rock, where we had some issues with the police and people just coming in, literally driving up. I had an issue in my house where the people coming to do the salvage before they were going to work on the house were throwing stuff away, and the refrigerator had been sitting with no power for 4 or 5 days. So it was nasty. It was bad. And the people put it in a dumpster and then went to lunch and came back to lunch, and the refrigerator was sitting on the ground because somebody went into the dumpster, pulled it out thinking, hey, we're going to get this refrigerator, then realized it was bad and left it. It was that bad. People walked into garages and doors are open, grabbing things. So looters are bad. Henceforth, there's a lot of people checking looters. In fact, in California, there's people pretending to be firefighters checking on things and actually going into the loot. But be wary that some people are looters, some people are bad folks, and some people are just people checking on their own property. So let's not get it twisted. The other thing are donations and funding for these groups that are helping out, giving donations. So if you have a donation, you have some money you want to give to this thing, or you want to give some time or effort, make sure you research who's asking for it first. If you have a preferred news source, they are vetting the things, so you can go through their sites and go to the main levels of support, mostly Red Cross like level things. You can check out things like give.org, which is attached to the Better Business Bureau, which is always just looking on things, making sure that they are on the up and up. Don't just get a text from someone that says, hey, we're collecting money for this thing, send us this to here, and reply back to that, because that's going to scam you money. You may also get into your understanding of your actual accounts and break things there, and understand how crowdfunding works. Just because a person puts up a GoFundMe account doesn't mean they are really worthy of what's going there. So there's very popular for people, but make sure you're vetting who's getting the account, who's actually promoting it, and how that person really needs or doesn't need the money. Now, giving them a windfall of money is great until they have to pay taxes on it and deal with all the repercussions there. So remember that windfalls are great until they aren't going forward. 40 states require charities register annually, so make sure your charity is registered. Make sure all things are on the up and up as you give in these cases. This is something that's going to be ongoing well beyond getting the fires under control, which many of them are starting to get under control. But as people have to rebuild, in some cases from bottom down, it's going to be pretty massive. Make sure you have some compassion in this time in these events, and make sure you're understanding in your compassion you are giving to reputable organizations and not just people who are trying to make a buck off people's suffering. I'm not sure if this goes with suffering. The segue is kind of weird for this one, but we're going to story number 5 for this morning. And Miss Universe, the organization, is pulling the Miss Argentina realm for the crown from Magalí Benejam for her claims that the competition is rigged. So when you're in a competition, you're in some sort of contest, and you tell folks, hey, the thing doesn't work, they tend to not want you to be around. And Miss Argentina, Magalí Benejam, who represented Argentina in 2024, has been stripped of her title, because, she's saying the competition is all rigged. During a live YouTube interview with content creator King Lucho, Benejam claimed that the pageant's results were predetermined, stating it was already fixed every year. So she further criticized fellow contestants, including the winner, Victoria Kaja Telvig of Denmark, suggesting that Telvig's victory was known in advance due to her having security detail during the final days. Benejam also accused Miss Puerto Rico, Jennifer Colon, of unfriendly behavior and critiqued her choice of a gown. So yeah, it was a little bit catty, and it was probably an interesting video to watch on YouTube, but not good for Miss Universe. They're not doing so well in the viewership of the pageants these days anyway, and the organization issued a statement on January 2nd announcing that they would withdraw her title. They emphasized that they commitment to celebrating diversity, prompting inclusion, and respecting all individuals. And of course, they stated that representatives' actions must reflect their principles, i.e. not playing nice, letting in on the secrets maybe, is not a good thing for the organization. They also clarified that the decision was made to protect its integrity and its opportunity, not to so much punish Benejam, though it is a punishment. She was not removed from the title Miss Universe Argentina 2024, or no, as of now, she has not removed her title, so she's still saying she got the crown. She earned it, more of a Vanessa Williams type thing. But as far as the organization is concerned, she ain't no more. Quick pause between the stories today. 5 stories down, 5 more to go. Quickly, we want to ask you for a bit of a favor. We need your help to grow this here thing in the next year, this year, 2025 and beyond, if you will. So if you like what you're seeing with us here on the Conversation Project, like the video. If you like what you're hearing, if this is the podcast replay, like the podcast. If you're watching or reading the newsletter and can't hear or see me, then this is useless, but like it as well. Like what you're seeing so the algorithm sees more people liking this stuff and feeds it up to more people to see it. I get to see what stories I'm doing, which are great on days, and what stories are not so great. So I know to do more of those stories when I have the choice. We'll explain the vetting in just a bit. If you know people who love this type of news nerds, and people who are into a commentary that's not exactly off the beaten path, share with those folks and let them get a chance to see it. Hopefully they will like as well. And if you're not subscribed to this in your feed automatically, subscribe to it wherever you want to see it. Go to our website and see other places that isn't where this thing is coming down live. That is the YouTube, the Facebook, the X. We're also on Threads. Of course, I talked about TikTok earlier. We're in many places. And I said, an email newsletter and some podcasting audio as well. Find us where you need to find us. Find us the best place to be. Subscribe so you don't miss on this thing. This comes down to you live to tape every weekday morning for an update of the news from the prior day, things that were conversational because you said so. This is a story that surprised me a little bit that you got into, but it was in the range. We'll explain the range of stories we picked from in a moment. But a new sports streaming app called Venu, which was backed by Disney, Fox, and Warner Brothers Discovery, it's not being dropped. They are dropping it like a hot potato and walking away, canceling plans to launch Venu Sports, joint sports streaming service initially announced for February. It comes with significant legal challenges and a dynamic marketplace that prompted companies to reassess their strategies. The Venu actually has some legal oppositions to Fubo TV, which filed an antitrust lawsuit alleging that Venu Sports would reduce market competition, which it would. Although Disney reached a settlement with Fubo TV by merging it with Hulu plus Live TV, that service with that one, and now gaining a 7% stake in that combined entity, further legal challenges from DirecTV and Dish were issues. Disney fixed it. The other two really couldn't because they don't have the background. Joint statement from the companies. After careful consideration, we have collectively agreed to discontinue the Venu Sports joint venture and not launch the streaming service. They emphasize that the commitment to meeting the evolving demands of sports fans by focusing on existing products and distribution channels. So it shows the complexities of the competitive market of streaming services, especially things that are live sports content. They're listed all over the place, but they're managed by various smaller entities. Of course, ESPN has their own, and ESPN Plus to go with that. Fox Sports has their own and their streaming platforms. Warner Brothers Discovery has streaming platforms and offerings that put on Max, so you see those as well. Plus Netflix, plus the Hulu, which is now attached to everything else. There really is a competition and a confusion with streaming vehicles, and especially for things like sports. As sports, which used to be you turn on your TV, your local station had it or they didn't, now it gives a chance to get it from anywhere, anytime, but with it added many added expenditures to find them. Jack Smith, he done. He gone. He's seriously out of here. The special counsel has resigned after leading the Trump investigation and not coming to fulfillment of some duties that he was supposed to do. Now, we've talked about this coming forward. Over the weekend, he officially resigned after President-elect Donald Trump basically said he was going to get rid of him anyway. Effective January the 10th, he is done with the government, at least in this term. There's pretty much no way that Trump's going to hire him for anything else. He was appointed in November 2022 to oversee the investigation of Trump's alleged attempts to overturn the government, the 2020 election results, and his mishandling of classified documentation. Two separate things. Both cases were dropped. Following Trump's victory in the 2024 presidential election, DOJ was like, yeah, we're not even doing this anymore. But he did owe the government a report. He had a preliminary report for the documents case. That's how we got to see many things, but did not have anything in line or anything done yet for the other case, for the actual election results things, the whole January 6th stuff. Unfortunately, because Donald Trump winning the election, chances were when he got in charge, he was going to fire Jack Smith anyway and make the paper go away. Jack Smith did an interim from one last try to get out, let's say, the truth, and tried to release the report before things were over. He tried to release the report saying he was going to quit, so he had to turn his report to Merrick Garland. The appeals court said, hold on to it because there are other people named in this case, and that would prejudice their cases that would probably go forward, even if Trump's case was basically dead. Henceforth, no report, no turn-in, no documentation. Jack Smith, seeing the writing well on the wall, basically punched out 10 days prior to President-elect Trump coming into office, and is now waiting to see whether Trump will try to do some retaliation on him in the back end. If you're watching the video, the look on Moana's face is essentially the look on all of our faces, but we're dealing with a lawsuit, potentially, over Moana 2, accused of the Disney of ripping off copyrighted screenplay that was already produced, which is a bad thing. Disney may be all powerful and all that stuff, but they can't just steal people's stuff. They do, but they can't. Animator Buck Woodall has filed a $10 billion lawsuit against Disney, alleging that the company infringed on his 2003 screenplay Bucky in creation of Moana and its sequel, Moana 2. Woodall claims that he submitted his screenplay and related materials to Jerry Marchik, the director of development of Mandeville Films, between 2003 and 2008. And Mandeville Films had a first look deal with Disney at the time. He alleged that Manchek shared his work with Disney without his consent, leading to the development of the film's Moana. The lawsuit alleges that several similarities to Bucky and Moana include the Polynesian village setting, teenager protagonists embarking on an oceanic journey, encountering spirit animals, a demigod character wielding a magical hook, and a quest to break a curse. Now, Woodall's previous lawsuits concerned the original Moana was dismissed due to statute of limitations, but Moana 2 came out in November, which means it's all legal again, baby. It's all new. So going back to both stories, because the story is a continuation of the first one. The response to early allegations, Moana co-director Robert Clemens stated the film was not inspired by or based on anything Woodall had out there in his project, saying he first became aware of it after the lawsuit was filed. Disney itself, no public comments. J.D. Vance is promising pardons for peaceful January 6 protesters if elected. This comes from the Washington Examiner, so take this article, take this write-up with many grains of salt, in fact, boulders of salt from a salt mine, if you will. But Vice President-elect J.D. Vance has basically stated the incoming administration is going to review cases related to January 6, 2021. The Capitol events, of course, focusing on the pardoning of individuals who participated peacefully. Vance emphasized that those engaged in violence should not expect any pardons. Now, Donald Trump has said basically no one did anything that of any harm to anybody, which if you actually watched it, your lying eyes would tell you differently. But Vance is highlighting the importance of equal application of the law, suggesting that peaceful protesters who face what he perceives as disappropriate treatment by the Department of Justice may be considered for pardons. He noted that each case will be individually assessed to ensure the justice. This basically comes out the fact that anybody who showed up, marched around outside, but didn't beat on any walls or go inside, essentially, if they got prosecuted, if they were prosecuted, put in jail, those folks need pardons immediately. But these are a lot of folks in general. And a lot of people, such as Donald Trump, who keeps kind of going back and forth, is sort of a blanket thing because, as Trump says, it was peaceful. Nothing went on. I mean, in fact, the cops are walking people around the building, actually deterring them, trying to be decoys and move them away from the Congress members who are inside while they're screaming, hang Mike Pence. It's an interesting approach. Pardons work the way they do, and the pardons actually don't come from Vance. They come from Trump, so he's really promising things on Trump's dime. But we're going to see what happens with this whole shebang because there's a lot of unresolved anger and resentment from all this stuff. Whether we get the pardons or not, whether they get the pardons or not, I should say, is really what's up to the air. And we don't want to say we're wrapping up the 10 stories on a sort of a downer, but we do downshift for this story here. Bill Maher released his 13th and final stand-up special called Is Anyone Else Seeing This? This is on HBO, premiered a few days ago, and it's available on HBO and Max. It's his 13th stand-up special. He says this is his very last one, so he's retiring from these things. He delivered a signature sardonic commentary addressing his hypocrisies of both conservative and liberal policies, as well as trends in modern parenting, sex, and dating and religion, basically complaining about stuff like he does all the time. That's his brand of humor. It was filmed live in an audience in Chicago and got some pretty good reviews. The audience reviews are, I'll say, mixed. Some people are noting that it's basically going through what he's going through before, with the big focus on the fact that he is probably proclaiming he's done talking about Donald Trump's campaign. He just doesn't want to do it anymore. He'll do it as it's newsworthy going forward for his show. But as far as his long stand-up, long rants about Donald Trump in the past, they're dated. He won. He doesn't want to do that. So this is sort of his last turn from doing stand-up with that, essentially saying he's tired of it, but here's some last more jokes. In the meantime, some people just think he is tired in general. His shtick is tired. His act is tired. What he's doing is tired. And that's basically what you get going forward. But we do know that Is Anyone Else Seeing This is on HBO, on Max. And as far as specials go, stand-up specials, he's going to stick with his actual show, his show on Fridays, and do some things that probably do some more stand-up and do some more events, if you will, this podcast. But as far as stand-up specials, they're tired. They're done. He's out of here. Our teaser story is a story we are teasing that's going to be posted in our feeds. And we explain this as a chance to transition out of the news stories that you already vetted, and I chose for today's forecast, today's headline suite, and explain how the stories get here going forward. Now, this is just one story of 30 stories that we posted throughout the day here. And when you see it, it'll be posted fairly soon after you see this video go live. You get a chance to engage in it and talk about it and do what you need to do. And just simple, you follow us on X, you follow us on Facebook. Those are our feeds. The feeds on Facebook are facebook.com/This is Conversation Project, x.com/TH_conversation. You get every 50 minutes or so, we post a news article from various different sources. You can have to read it and see the source and get into the details. So we need you to engage in the story. If it's something that you see when you're checking your feed on Facebook or X and on Threads as well, we have it on Threads as well. You just see it, it looks interesting, like it. Do whatever emoji you want to do for the Facebook, because there's 6 of them. Engage in it by reading it, by clicking on the article, by sharing it with folks, by commenting on the article in that feed so we see more engagement. The higher the engagement score a story gets, the more a story gets engaged, the better you have a chance of talking about it later on. Now, today, we gave you 10 stories. We had about 30 stories within the span of a day, essentially. We call a day from midnight to about 3 a.m. So in 3 days, we got about 90 stories. We took the top 30 of those stories, and we went through and sifted out 10 that worked for the narrative. So there were 20 stories that were kind of in range that didn't get picked. If you don't think we picked the right ones, email me and we'll see how they worked out. The rest of the week, Tuesday through Friday, we're going to give you 8 stories in the day from the top half of stories, 15, 16, or 30 or so that get posted in the day, and do the same thing as well. So shorter going along the rest of the week, but same thing applies. Same menu applies. Is a story like this one on Blue Origin's rocket being delayed just a little longer because of conditions. Now, the day prior, Sunday, the rocket launch was delayed because of weather. I think the same thing applied for today, or Sunday early this morning. I think the same thing applied. Based the conditions weren't there. But this is all about the billionaires and their flalic offerings. I said that with a little bit of a pause. Going back and forth. Jeff Bezos wants to put rockets into space and not just put people up as tourists, but use them for cargo to send them up to space stations in the future. So he has to get one that will do that first. Right now, Elon Musk is the only billionaire guy who's actually doing it on a consistent basis. And because of that, he has locked in a whole lot of government contracts, which makes it great for him and Doge crew and the Trump crew making things happen. But if, say, Jeff Bezos comes up with a competing rocket, maybe he can come up with a competing sort of non-entity and do things for the government. Who knows? We care because it means big things for us. But that rocket launch failed to launch, and it'll have to be pushed back for later, postponed for a while. You want to talk about Blue Origin and their new Glenn rocket that will launch to space and bring things back and forth, reusable rocket, if you will? Let me know. Email us if you think this is cool, but you really need to talk about us in the feed. So go to the feeds and check them out. The article about the lawsuit in New Orleans truck attack victims was a story we teased on Friday, and we told you it had to fight a big fight to make it all the way through, so it was engaging and noticeable on Monday morning. It was engaging and noticeable. We made it happen. Thank you guys so much for engaging in it. Let us know we need to talk about it one, because we still need to talk about this attack and talk what's going on even as the days wane of the actual actions. Today's sponsor is Zenni Optical. You can find them at our link, which is an affiliate link. This is theconversationproject.com/Zenni, Cenni. Affordable, stylish, high quality eyewear. I use Zenni glasses myself. I've been using them for about a decade, using the service to get them. Frames start around $695. My frames, basic frames, but they're good frames, $695. I don't need anything fancy, anything that pops at fashion, so they work there. And the lenses are great. They're not cheap plastic shells, although you can get plastic if you want to, but they offer things like prescription glasses, sunglasses, blue light blocking lenses, all you need to do for what's going on. You pick the lenses with the frames and it's there. And for people, now that we've reset our insurance this year, we want to save a little money on their insurance for the glasses, save that copay, save that chunk of money, and go to Zenni Optical for a cheaper blend. In fact, people in the insurance business will tell you, Get your insurance, get what you need, and then buy them from someplace online. Zenni will offer you great stuff. With a virtual try-on feature that you can put your face in there and put lenses on them to see how they work. You can get things with anti-reflective coatings, photochromic lenses, progressives, all the things you look for, 100% guaranteed satisfaction for you. I have a tint in my glasses that I should be wearing right now. So it helps me when I'm looking at screens all day, because I look at screens all day, to work on things like that. Right now, unfortunately, this year is the year we get the progressives. And we're sure Zenni Optical will take care of that as well. So if you're looking for less in the way of what you're spending, but more in the way of value, we offer you Zenni Optical. And this is an affiliate link. We get a small commission from your buying from them, but please use our link to help us grow here. This is conversationproject.com/Zenni. This is conversationproject.com/Zenni, Zenni. Zenni Optical is eyewear for every you. Very quick stop by, because we go long on Mondays on the Conversation Project and our hyping of ourselves. Our online home, as we said already, this is conversationproject.com. That is our website. You can find more about what we do. We like to think we help you and get your voice out, and that helps us shape the news out there. We give you headlines from various places, and yes, I have to pick them and kind of go through them, and so it's kind of unfair when they get there. But you give you a chance to engage in them as you see this fit. Sometimes we put stories out there that are early on before people have picked up on it, so they don't get any love. And you think, why are we talking about that? Well, we actually gave you a chance to talk about that a few days prior and didn't get in there. Sometimes we pick things up that are really late, that have just been floating around for a bit, and then we kind of toss it there because we need some space. You guys jump on it immediately because it's something they've been waiting for. The stories, the headlines, the news we talk about is based on you. And it's not just the wildfires. It's not just Donald Trump's hush money case. It's not just the New Orleans truck attack. Those are big stories, and you want to talk about them. But we also mix in smaller stories, things that get missed out, because when something overtakes a story in the national media, these days it overtakes a story in the national media. Everything is revolving around the fires, and whatever they can mix in with that just happens. It is what it is. So we try to give you a chance to vote up the news, if you will, that you want to get to, and that's there. So you do that by following us on our feeds, visit our website to see what kind of news we're covering, and doing stuff for us by visiting our website and looking at sponsors and partnerships to help us do things in behind the scenes. The most important thing you can do, of course, is follow the feeds, engage in the stories, and email me with your comments and concerns on how to shape the news. With that, we're a wrap on this Monday, the 13th of January, 2025. Already halfway into the first month of the year, basically halfway in, and we are 7 days away from the inauguration of Donald J. Trump. Currently 45, going to be 47 in a few days. We are riding that wave of content because despite what I feel about the man personally, didn't vote for him, and we can go over the bits and pieces of that in the commentary. Team content, baby. Plenty of content coming for the next 4 years. We will see how that plays out and what happens in the next election when that's important. Or you can, go to Amazon and search for the Why Not, the Now What Network Manifesto, and buy that book and see how you can stay engaged into your political life right now. Not a big sponsor, but hey, it's a book I wrote. If you want to check it out, it goes into detail on how you can stay engaged in politics, even if your guy lost or your guy wins and they sort of forget about you. Local, national, and of course, state levels, all levels of politics. It works for all. But we're working for all. Going back to work today, even though it's a bit of a snow day still as well, but still work to do. Love you guys. Mean it. Let me know what we can do in the comments. Let me know what we can do in email. Let me know what we can do. We'll be back tomorrow with 8 stories that you engaged in for this Monday on the Tuesday edition of Things You Might Not Have Heard.